Good morning, everybody. Unfortunately, Brendan cannot be with you, so you're stuck with me. I'm Ben Pullinger, Excellon's Senior Vice President of Geology, and I'd like to take you guys through the story of Excellon today, Mexico's highest silver producer, and also looking at many other exciting things. This, in a nutshell, is really what the story is about. The people who have delivered in the past, a team that has delivered on all fronts: permitting, exploration, construction, asset base that we can grow with, and realizing where we are in the sector, and realizing that there's been a bunch of people up this morning talking about the access to capital markets, and how difficult that is, and how important it is to be resilient and to be in the right place and be positioned well for when markets return. This is our board of directors and management. I'll point out a few key members on our board in terms of governance and strength. Daniela Dimitrov on the board of Nexa, partner at Sprott Capital Management. Laurie Curtis, a geologist, the founder of Intrepid Minerals, sold that, went on to become an analyst, and basically seen every exploration stage and production asset in all of the world. And then on the management side, Brendan, our CEO, former M&A lawyer from Davies Ward, boutique firm in Toronto, lots of big mining deals. And the last and probably most recognizable one at Palangio. He was there when we spun out the Detour Lake asset and turned that into Detour Gold, which then went on to become Canada's biggest gold mine. Also, a new addition to the team, Annalad Kruger, joined us from Trevali recently. She was at Trevali from a $50 million market cap all the way through to a $1 billion deal with Glencore. Myself, I joined the team from Roxgold, where I was part of taking the Yaramoko asset from a rough inferred resource all the way through to commercial production in 4 years. Craig Ford, another very important member of our team, he was at Enmet basically from the beginning, inception of Enmet, all the way through to them getting taken up by First Quantum, and is really one of the key stakeholders in getting Cobre Panama permitted, getting a intractable community situation resolved, and Cobre Panama went into production this year on the back of that. We currently have 3 assets, 2 in Mexico and 1 which I'm excited to talk about as well at the end of this, later on in the presentation, our Silver City asset in Germany. Really, we're positioned on basically the 3 best gold belts that you can be on. The CRD Superhighway that runs all the way through the spine of Mexico, the Northern Fresnillo trend, which needs no introduction, and now the Freiburg trend, which is literally the economic and mining engine of Europe back in the 1880s. Our keystone asset, the Platosa mine, it's produced over 800,000 tons. It's been in production since 2005. It is Mexico's highest grade resource at the moment. We produce at about 1,000 grams per ton silver equivalent, 500 grams silver, and the rest is made up of base metals. Torreon, where we're based out of, city of over 1.1 million people. It's quite spectacular. You can stay at any hotel you want to. You can fly in on regular daily flights. You can take an Uber to the mine and pick up Starbucks from key locations along the way. Very, very good place to work. Historically, this mine has had some water challenges that some of you might have heard about. Since 2017, we've been producing under dry conditions. But where you can see what that's allowed us to do, we have to pump a lot of water to get there. And if you look on the horizon there, you see all these green fields of alfalfa. We have a very strong relationship with our community, and we irrigate 3,500 hectares of land, growing alfalfa, supporting the local community around the mine. This is the resource that we're based off. As I was talking about, that super high Platosa, 1,000 plus gram per ton silver equivalent resource. This has a small resource and has always had a small resource. Every year we continue to grow it, push it out, replace what we found, and it continues to slowly grow and maintain that grade. What's important here, though, is in terms of the spectrum of CRD systems, Platosa is now sitting at around 1.2, 1.3 million tons mined and defined. This puts it on very much the small end of the spectrum when you look at other CRDs, and I'll touch more on that and what we believe will happen to this asset as it goes on later on. On the cost and production side, really a story of stabilizing the operation. As I said, in Q2 2017, we dried out the mine. We started realizing very good costs. Q3 2018, we had a couple things that went against us, And really, if you look at Q4 2018 through to Q4 2019, the unfortunate thing is the delta between that and what you see on the left-hand side of the slide is really about treatment charges and electricity costs. Electricity costs having doubled in Mexico, and treatment charges, especially on zinc, having gone up by 10x. We believe that we can get these costs back down to sub $15, and that's where we see the company going into next year. In terms of our assets, I already talked about the CRD superhighway, as Peter McGaw likes to call it, but that really is the belt. That's the when you look at the size and the scale of these operations, they're primarily owned by Peñoles and Grupo Mexico. These are assets that are legacy assets. They produce for a very long time. They continue to grow, and Platosa is, as I said earlier, very much in its infancy. No one was here before us. This is a discovery made by the company in 1999, put into production in 2005. There was no Grupo here. There was no Spanish here before us. This is our baby, and as I said, at 1.3 million tons mined and defined, very much in its infancy. And really, like Dave Lotan was talking about earlier, what happens when you don't do exploration is you really cut your throat as a company. And our goal is to look at exploration and view exploration as just part of the business. It's our R&D, right? If you don't have exploration, if you're not looking at your next product, if you're not developing, if you're not growing, you don't have a future. And with that, our philosophy is very simple: grow what we have, find more on the projects that we have. We have those three projects on those three silver belts. And then really what we want to do and what we're built to do is to try and find a world-class discovery either in that CRD superhighway, the Fresnillo trend, or in Freiberg in Germany. Platosa, we continue to add resources as we drill and define more mineralization out ahead of us from underground. You can see some of those results there on the left-hand side. Spectacular grades, spectacular widths, 11.1 meters at 2,200 gram per ton silver equivalent. Those two purple circles you see in the middle there, those are areas that we're currently putting in dedicated drill infrastructure, and we'll be drilling from there on the northern one by the end of the year and the southern one into next year. Continue to define, continue to add resources, continue to delineate new ounces. And more importantly as well, if you look on the right-hand side of that slide, you see that cluster of purple dots. That is where the resource remains open. And earlier this year, we were drilling out there, announcing grades and widths of 5 meters at 2,300 gram per ton silver equivalent. Really that spectacular Platosa grade continuing and still open ahead of us. Our regional land package, to give you some context, is 21,000 hectares. The whole of Platosa, all of our resources to date, sit on just 56 of that 21,000 hectares. With that in mind, exploration on this project has been a constant challenge for us, and we continue to define new targets, continue to get boots on the ground, continue to work with our crews to find places to drill. Most recently, we've got two priority targets that you can see on this slide. Jaloncillo in the top left-hand corner there. This is an area we've just finished up drilling some holes, proving up that there is a giant, big alteration zone, huge breccias, pyrite filled. We're in the system. If you're going through your CRD checklist to find out that make sure that you're in the right place to looking at this, we're 9 out of 10 on that list. The last thing missing there is an economic discovery, so we will persist. Like, the environment is correct, the geology is right, the amount of alteration in those limestones is pretty significant. Later this year, we plan to be drilling at a place called PDN. PDN is a skarn target linked to what we see there at Rincon del Cairo, where the company was drilling in 2012, intersecting high-grade copper and lead, high-grade gold and copper, as well as base metals as well as part of that skarn mineralization. This is something that we're hoping to put some drill holes into before the end of this year and see what we get coming in the new year. If we jump in our cars or our trucks and we take a drive 200 k's down the highway, we get to our Miguelauza, or our Evolucion project, where we have a commanding land position of 45,000 hectares in the middle of the northern Fresnillo trend. The Fresnillo trend needs no introduction. 5 billion ounces mined to the south, basically from San Luis Potosi all the way up to Fresnillo. What's very interesting though is once you get to the north of Fresnillo, this belt disappears into cover. It pops up at a couple places, and you can see a few windows there, and where it pops up out of cover, they are generally projects. Where we are in the land package that we have and what we're seeing around us is mainly exploration under cover, and a really good example of the riches and what you can find in this part of the world is the story of San Sebastian. San Sebastian is a Hecla mine. Hecla put it into production. It has been their top cash flowing asset, and it was found a 10 kilo per ton silver vein under 1 meter of soil in a farmer's field. This is the riches, and this is what we're looking for in this part of the world, and this is why we have that land package there. As well, on top of that, we have a former producer, a 30 million ounce resource that we're busy working on growing, and we have our mill there, and I'll touch on that and the significance and the strategic value of our mill later on in this presentation. To the end of last year and early this year, we started exploring around that historical resource. So that historical resource there came into the company in 2009 when Excellon took over Silver Eagle, who had just started to build the Calvario vein or Calvario mine. They ran out of money. Excellon acquired them for $4 million of stock, got a brand new $15 mill, a whole bunch of losses carried forward in that 30 million ounce resource. We've gone back and been exploring in that area, and the result of that is we've started to intersect a very large bulk tonnage zone of mineralization, seeing stuff of consistent mineralization like 153 meters at 1.2 grams gold equivalent or 101 grams silver equivalent, with higher grade within that. We've currently got this zone defined to in excess of 800 meters along strike and in excess of 800 meters at depth. Just to give you, though, a bit more context, if you look at that historical resource, that's 30 million ounces. That section across from the top of that to the top of those drill holes is 1.2 kilometers. This is a very big system, and we're busy testing to see how big it is, with the intention of hopefully being able to take it up to resource, where we believe it will underpin a very big silver equivalent resource that is currently not reflected in our share price. Miguelauza this is a picture of our mill. This is the mill that we acquired from Silver Eagle in 2009. We've done a fair bit of work on it over the years, but it's a very strategic asset as it is the only mill in that part of the Fresnillo belt. We currently have a toll milling agreement with San Sebastian as they ramp up and develop their underground, their sulfide ore. We are taking delivery of that, toll milling it for them. We're currently in a bulk sample stage, and hopefully rolling that into a full commercial agreement with them next year, which will be about $3 to $5 million US attributable to us as part of that deal. Last but certainly not least, I'm going to pause here and just sometimes remind myself there's not a lot of places in the world that you can go and find a 164 square kilometer intact gold system and pick it up with nobody else around you, as we have done here. Saxony, probably very little known but very mining friendly jurisdiction. The dots that you see there, those are all mining projects and various commodities between private and junior companies. It's a place where where basically the Saxon Empire was funded with the development of the silver mines over 750 years in the 1200s all the way through to 1881, where they shut down after Germany went off the silver standard and changed over to a gold standard. Coincidentally, and very interestingly, a lot of these guys left Freiburg, where they were mining, headed over to North America and Mexico, and actually ended up modernizing and industrializing the Mexican silver mining industry. But this is where they came from. These mines have been in production for hundreds of years, produced over 400 million ounces of silver, and they're very, very far from done. A lot of them shut down with the decline in the silver price due to water pumping and just lack of economics. But these things only went down 80, 100, 200 meters at depth. And what's very important and very, very cool about this project is the amount of information that we have in it. The University of Freiburg is located 5 kilometers away from this project, and it is the world's oldest mining technology institute and university. For hundreds of years, they were collecting samples from each one of these mines, keeping them on archive, and we have access to those samples, so we know what the veins look like, we know what the mineralization looks like, we know what the mineralogy looks like. The University of Freiburg has done petrographic and fluid inclusion studies on this, so the amount of information that we have before we go and put our first drill hole into this is already well ahead of the game and pretty staggering. We have lots of records as well from these mines, knowing that they produced anywhere from a half meter at 3,500 grams per ton silver, not assaying for gold or zinc back in those days, up to some areas where they shut down in 10 meters of 1,000 grams per ton silver. This is a spectacular silver district, and it fits very well into our portfolio. We're hoping to be, we're in the process of putting a work plan together and look forward to drilling here, hopefully by the end of Q1 or into Q2 next year. Again, just can't talk enough about the support and the infrastructure in this area. In addition to the University of Freiburg, there's also the Helmholtz Institute of Freiburg, which is a higher technology institute funded by Brussels and Berlin, with the purpose of bringing investment into technology and investment into mining into Saxony. This institute is located pretty much next door to the university, the Freiburg University. They share resources, they share students, and this is a mining city. This is a mining town. Very proud of its mining heritage. Just to wrap it up, this is our capital structure. Market cap sitting around $100 million at the moment. In August of this year, we closed an $11.5 million deal. We have about $9 million at the end of the quarter in working capital, and very well supported by strong shareholders. About 35% of our float is out of Europe, and then Eric Sprott, who is our major shareholder, owns 20% of the company. Good volumes, good liquidity as well, and good coverage out of Cantor, Cormark, and PI Financial. And with that, I'll leave you on this final slide. This is really what it's all about for Excellon when it comes down to it. Our vision and what we want to do in life is create wealth for our shareholders, for our management, for the people that work for us, for the stakeholders, for anybody that comes into interaction or interacts with Excellon. This is what the ultimate goal is. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for listening to the story, Excellon.